Hi there, and welcome to this short video. My name is Hisham Murad. I do both product and technical marketing in the Ansible business unit at Red Hat. Today I'm going to just walk you through a short demonstration of a specific hybrid cloud or public cloud use case around automation. So let's jump right in. So when you think about, managing a larger hybrid cloud, obviously you have, private data centers, you may have, edge use cases, you also have public clouds that you're leveraging. So today the example is going to be specifically around the AWS cloud. But remember, there's a ton of use cases that you can perform regardless of where you're performing automation, right? So there's orchestration. So you want to be able to do things like, infrastructure orchestration, right? Application orchestration. And then once you have a lot of that infrastructure and applications and whatnot orchestrated, you want to be able to perform some, operations tasks around that as well. So there's a ton of different use cases around sort of IT operations, whether you're looking for visibility, whether you're performing cloud operations, whether you're trying to do some level of troubleshooting and having an automation tool help you with that, integrating your IT service management, right, as part of this. And then also moving into the governance space, right? So being able to do things like, looking at your infrastructure and looking at where you can optimize and actually perform some of that optimization, and making sure that you meet your best practices and your internal best practices and standards, right, through compliance and being able to, again, automate those checks and balances, right? So there's a ton of different use cases that an automation platform like the Ansible Automation platform can help you perform. So today I thought I'll jump into one of these use cases, and I wanted to focus on infrastructure orchestration as well as deprovisioning. So I want to be able to provision as well as deprovisioning, just to kind of show you what that looks like. And I thought it would be really cool to do this in the AWS cloud. So now here I am in the Ansible Automation platform, specifically the automation controller, and I'm at the dashboard, and you can see the different hosts that I'm automating against, the inventories that I have, the different projects which essentially represent a code that I have stored somewhere on a Git repository. In my case, I'm leveraging GitHub for this example. So we're going to jump right in and actually perform some of this automation. So if I go to projects, really quickly, I'll show you the project that I have. Here is my project. It's called AWS Demo 1 with my initials. And you can see this is really just pointing to a Git repository and what branch that is. And that gets synchronized in here. And every time I make changes, that gets synchronized as well. And you can see I can manually come in and synchronize it here. And as part of that, I have a number of job templates and workflow templates that I have as part of this, okay? So if I just go back over here to the templates menu, you can see them all here. Now, what I'm going to run is this one, which is called Create Resources and EC2 Instances. If you just take a quick notice here, this one says a workflow job template. The ones above it just say job templates. So the job template really is a configuration wrapper around a playbook. And that playbook could have multiple plays with multiple tasks, right? But when you take a workflow, what you're doing is you're actually now starting to string together in different ways these different playbooks, right? So in this workflow here, what I'm doing is I'm actually stringing together a number of different playbooks. So the first one is create an SSH key pair, create the VPC and the subnet, create the security group, create the internet gateway, and then finally create the RHEL instance by determining what AMI I'm going to use, and then performing some configuration management on that as well. So again, this workflow ties all those together. What does that look like? If I click here on the visualizer, you can see how these are linked, right? And you can put conditions here. So if one fails, it'll stop, or if you can have it. And you can do more advanced linking here as well of different playbooks. And that's really just coming in here and clicking the plus sign or editing or, doing some additional linking of different nodes as part of this. So you can, again, get very elaborate in how you perform these. I like to build workflows because it allows me to take the different tasks or the things I want to do and make them a little bit more modular and a little bit more flexible, right? Because sure, I need to create a VPC here, but maybe I have another use case somewhere where I would need to use a template to create a VPC. Well, I have it now, it's modular, and I can leverage it over there. Similarly, maybe I need to create an internet gateway in another workflow, so it's easy for me to leverage and take advantage of this specific job template that I already have and made very modular. Now let's go ahead and click on launch this workflow. And now, so this is actually starting to happen here. So again, it's going to go through that order that I've said. And if there's any failures, so after the SSH key creation, if this actually fails, it's going to stop here. And then it'll just keep running here only on success, right? So, yep, that succeeded. It moved on. And now it's just going to keep running on success of each of the previous job templates. So excellent, this is going through. Now while I'm doing that, let me show you some of the things that I'm taking advantage of. If I go over here to console.redhat.com, in the Ansible Automation Platform section, and you go to Automation Hub, you can see here that there's a ton of collections just by clicking on the collections. This is all Red Hat certified content that we develop with our technology partners to make it really easy for you to automate against these different type of offerings, whether it's public cloud, whether it's storage, whether it's networking, whether it's applications, etc. Right? But in our case, we're doing Ansible, we're doing automation against AWS. So here, there's a Amazon collections. I'll click on that. The collection I'm leveraging is called AWS. And each of these collections typically has a number of modules, a number of plugins as well, and they're documented very well with a lot of examples, again, to make it easy for you to consume. So here I can see if I wanted to install this locally, I can easily do that. I can go to the documentation and I can start to see documentation around the different modules. So for example, here's CloudFormation. Maybe I want to create or delete a CloudFormation stack. This will give me some the parameters as well as some examples further down in terms of how to do that. Maybe I want to do some AMI management, right? So create or destroy an AMI image. Maybe as part of my EC2 instances, I want to be able to build or destroy, but also with some additional customization. So again, here I can come and see all the parameters. Some of these will be required, some of these will be optional, right? So the required ones are necessary, obviously. And forgive me for scrolling quickly here, but if I scroll down, the great thing about this is that we give you examples of the code and what this low code really looks like that you need to build in your different playbooks, right? So you can see here I'm restarting a specific instance that has a specific ID. Here I'm starting an instance with a public IP address, right? So again, really simple examples to help you build that content. And as I mentioned, there's a ton of different collections representing different IT domains. So please take advantage of this content on console.redhat.com. So if we go back to the Ansible Automation Platform here, well, you can see this actually now all went through and it was successful. Okay, well, let's go ahead and take a look at that. So if I go over here to my VPC, so you can see here my VPCs in this region were 8. If I actually click on it now, I should see 9. And the one that I just created was this one here, AWS Demo VPC. So there's a VPC. I can see the CIDR range here. I can get the additional details around it. I'm also tagging it as part of my automation workflow there. And we create a subnet that also gets associated with that VPC. There's actually a default route, which we also create and associate here as part of this. We're creating an internet gateway, so we can actually get out to the internet from that specific VPC as well. And you can see it here tied to that VPC. So all those resources that you required, all those networking resources are all created as part of this workflow. And so here, again, I have the security group, right? So that's associated with that VPC, and this will also get tied to the EC2 instance. Having said that, let's click on the EC2 page, and if I go over here to running instances, if I scroll down, now I can see the instance also that we just created. And so here it is. If I scroll down a tiny bit here, I can show you also that when we generated that key pair name, we associated it here, and this is up and running, and I can actually connect to it here if I choose to, right, through the UI. So that was really very quickly how we orchestrated the creation of all that content, right? But often, in an environment, you may also have the use case of, after a while, you want to be able to deprovision, right? In some cases, maybe like a cloud operations task may be, hey, if there's some resources that are not tagged, initially I want to check for them, and then I want to maybe shut them down. And then at a later time, maybe if they've been shut down for 7 days or more or something like that, maybe now I want to actually delete them, right? So these are some of those like cloud operations, cloud optimization type use cases that you can also embark on when you're performing automation in the cloud. But here, just for a simple example, I have this one tear down all resources. This is just basically a playbook that's basically deleting all the resources I created just in the opposite order based on the requirements for deletion. So if I'm just going to click on that, and you'll see here that this is going to start and go through deleting all those resources, and you can take my word for it that this will just take a couple of moments here and it will delete all those resources. So you can already see that it's grabbing the facts for the EC2 instance, and it's going to destroy the EC2 instance, and again, within a few moments, it will just go back, and at the very end, it'll remove the VPC as well as the key pair that we had generated. Now, this is all customizable, but I just wanted to show you what a larger infrastructure deployment use case looks like, as well as a deprovisioning of resources also looks like. So thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. Please go out to our website, download Ansible Automation Platform, and give it a try to address some of your hybrid cloud automation use cases. Thank you, and have a great day.